Hello and welcome to the lecture of microeconomics. If you have not watched the earlier class, kindly watch it. This is the second lecture of it. In the first lecture of microeconomics, we have completed till unemployment, and in this lecture, we will talk about what is poverty, what are various kinds of poverties, and how poverty is measured, and various indices related to it. Now, poverty is basically a deprivation. It is deprivation from all possible standards of life. It is a deprivation from health, education, income, a clean environment, good governance, and for that matter, even the social security as well. So, poverty is basically a deprivation, and usually it is the pronounced deprivation in well-being. This is a definition given by World Bank. With respect to measurement of poverty, there are two ways of measuring it. One is subjective way, that is a way in which it is dependent upon our understanding, and the other way is an objective manner where we precisely take up certain indices and certain metrics and we measure the amount of poverty. When we are discussing about subjective poverty is based on the perception. For example, in my point of view, certain standard of health is considered as a good standard, and below that it might be a bad standard. Whereas in someone else's point of view, this standard is also very bad, and the standard that is expected is here. So this is called a subjective measurement of anything. Whereas in objective measurement, we pick up certain indicators which are clearly measurable, and based on that, we measure the amount of poverty. Now, there are three major indicators available for us to measure poverty. One is wealth, second is income, and third is consumption and expenditure. When it comes to wealth and income, the problem is that people don't report their wealth and income properly. So, wealth and income are considered as inefficient ways to measure poverty. So, consumption or expenditure patterns are used to measure poverty properly. So, a basket is prepared in which various items that are consumed are placed in this basket, and based on the ability of consumption of this poverty basket or PL basket, based on the ability of consumption of this basket, a line is drawn which is known as poverty line, and using that line, the poverty levels of any economy or for that matter any family is measured. Now, there is one word which is known as poverty gap. Poverty gap helps us to understand how poor of a country are poor. That is, there is a difference between rich and the poor, that is evident, and poverty gap refers to the depth of the poorness. How worse is the scenario, how bad is the poor, that is defined by poverty gap. Now, there is a basket which is known as poverty line basket. Poverty line basket is nothing but a measurement of various measurable indices which together are used to define the poverty levels. For example, clothing, right? Then automobile facility or automobile availability, health, or for that matter access to education. So various kind of things are placed in the basket. Usually those things that are consumed and are measurable are placed in this basket, and such basket is called as poverty line basket. In India specifically, poverty line basket used to involve only food materials. Various committees at different points of time improvise the definition of poverty basket, and today we follow a line known as Tendulkar poverty line. In the next 5 to 10 minutes, we will understand how this definition of poverty has evolved, how we improvised our poverty baskets, and various committees in this. In this entire topic, there will be two questions that are important for you. With respect to exams, it could be either Tendulkar poverty line or Rangarajan committee. But before that, the first committee is Dandekar and Rath committee. They may not go to the extent of asking these deep committees in tier 1, but still I am picking up all these things so that no stone is unturned when you go to the examination. So the first committee that was tasked with measuring or determining the poverty line basket is Dandekar and Rath committee. Dandekar and Rath committee decided that the poverty basket will be decided based on food consumption, and they gave a metric that any person who is not able to consume more than 2200 calories per day in a month, in an entire month, 2200 calories per person in a family, that family is considered as a poverty or poor family. If I say 2200 calories per day per person, then this is absolutely wrong. Per day is not right. Okay, 2200 calories on the whole. So this is the first one, that is Tendulkar and Rath committee. The next committee is YK Alag committee. This committee also continued saying that a food basket is the base for us to measure poverty. Now, one improvisation that was done by this committee is that they separated the rural requirement and the urban requirement. And they said that for urban requirement, 2000 calories are needed, whereas for rural requirement, 2400 calories are required per day per household. So, that is the error that I made here. This is the mistake, per household, right? So, per day per household. Per day per household. In the slides, please correct this. It is per day per household. So these are the definitions given. Originally, the poverty line definition was based on the food consumption in a family. The first committee is Tendulkar and Rath committee, and they said that any family or any household that is not able to consume more than 2200 calories per day, such family is considered as a below poverty line family. The second committee that came into picture is YK Alag committee. Alag committee also continued measuring food as the basis of the poverty line basket, but what they did is they divided the food consumption between rural and urban, and in rural they set lesser limits, and in urban they set in rural they set more limits, and in urban it is lesser limits. The reason for this is usually rural society is considered to be more hard working society with respect to physical activities, so they need more amount of food. So 2400 calories per day per household is fixed for rural, whereas 2000 calories was fixed for urban. Next committee was Lakadwala committee. Lakadwala committee came in there 1978, and this is the first time when the poverty line basket was expanded. Along with food, clothing, shelter, transportation were introduced in the basket, and a separate poverty line was designed for each state. For each different state, the standard was fixed at different values so that it will consider the differences that are there in different states. So this is Lakadwala committee. If they ask you, this is the first committee that expanded the poverty line basket, and the focus now shifted from mere food to clothing, shelter, transportation, etc. The next committee, which is very important committee for us with respect to exams, is Tendulkar committee. Even today, the poverty line that we follow is based on Tendulkar committee's recommendations. Tendulkar committee shifted the focus completely from the calorie concept, and they said that we need a different poverty level basket. Poverty level basket must include everything that will define the wellness. For example, it should include health, it should include education, it should also include what has to be consumed and what is necessary to lead a healthy and happy life. So this is the change that was done by Tendulkar committee, and they also changed the revision period with respect to poverty line. So the line that they drew is known as Tendulkar poverty line, and Tendulkar poverty line gave income. Tendulkar poverty line said that the minimum money that is needed is rupees 5000 per household per month. On an average, this comes to around 41.67 rupees, but the figures of that day fixed this at somewhere at around 30 rupees. So this number led to a lot of controversy. People started saying that is really 30 rupees enough to decide whether a person is below poverty level or not. This line was subjected to a lot of criticism, and then the other committee that was appointed is Rangarajan committee. What Rangarajan committee did is that they slightly expanded the basket, and they said that with respect to food, we will follow ICMR guidelines, and in non-food, we will include clothing, shelter, entertainment, and transport, etc. Along with this, behavioral component was also considered, and households' ability to save is considered as a part of the entire poverty line basket. Now, in the examinations, they might not ask you about the internal aspects of Rangarajan committee, but the fact is that even Rangarajan committee also prescribed more or less same measures. With respect to Tendulkar committee, they gave a single flat value of 5000 rupees per household per month. Rangarajan committee came up with a change, and they said that in rural household you need 4860 rupees per household per month, whereas in urban household you need 7034 rupees per household per month. So even Rangarajan committee is more or less same as the Tendulkar poverty line, and nothing much has changed. Overall, with respect to figures, Tendulkar committee said it is 27.2 rupees per rural household and 33 for urban household per day. Whereas Rangarajan committee fixed rural at 33 and urban at around 47 rupees. So more or less both of them did the same thing. So these were the improvisations that were done over a period of time. So this is about Tendulkar and Rangarajan committee, and the current poverty line basket is based on head count ratio, that is number of people that are really there, consumption expenditure, and a Tendulkar poverty line. So current poverty line basket is a mix of various things. No single line is followed. In exams at max they will ask you Suresh Tendulkar committee is related to what? It is related to poverty line. Rangarajan committee is related to what? It is related to poverty line. At the max, these are the questions that they can ask you. And if they still go to the next level, they might ask you arrange the following committees in the chronological order, and they will give you Dandekar and Rath committee, YK Alag committee, Suresh Tendulkar committee, and finally Rangarajan committee. So these are the kind of questions that you can expect with respect to poverty line, etc. Now, these are the measurements that are done to understand and to measure the poverty. But to utilize this poverty data in implementing various government policies, government utilizes a separate data which is known as socio-economic and caste census. The last socio-economic and caste census of India was done in the year 2011. And this data is used for identification of beneficiaries. Socio-economic and caste census is done by Ministry of Rural Development in rural areas, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs in urban areas. The caste related data is collected by Ministry of Home Affairs, whereas Registrar General and Census Commissioner is also involved in collecting the entire information. This holistic survey is called as socio-economic caste census. This will collect data about everybody, about their economic strata, about their social strata, their caste details, and all those things are collected to understand the real dynamics of poverty in India. This data is used to identify a lot of beneficiaries, and after the complete and comprehensive SECC, the data group has been divided into three different sets. People are categorized into three different groups. First group of people who are considered as automatically eligible for all government schemes. Those people are considered to be poorest of poor people, and they are automatically included in all kinds of government schemes. They need not apply separately. There are 15.95 lakh households who belong to this category in India, which comes up to 0.89% of the entire dataset. The second category of people is those people who are automatically excluded from all the benefits. This list is exhaustive. This list is decided based on various parameters, including if someone has a three-wheeler or a four-wheeler, they were excluded from the benefits. So this is about the second category, and there are around 39.35% of people who belong to this category. And the third category is considered as a deprived category. Deprived category people are eligible for all schemes, but they will be included based on the scheme specifications and the application process. So this is more than enough for us with respect to socio-economic caste census. In India, let me sum up everything. In India, poverty line is measured, or poverty is measured for two different purposes. One is to determine how many people are below poverty. Such a line is called as a below poverty line, and the poverty line is decided based on the poverty line based basket. Originally, this basket consists of only food items. The first committee to do so is the Dandekar and Rath committee. Over a period of time, the second committee that did the same process is Aayog committee, and what Aayog committee did was that it separated the rural and urban component. And over a period of time, there was Lakhadwala committee, and Lakhadwala committee expanded the definition of the poverty line basket and brought in non-food elements such as clothing, shelter, etc. Over a period of time, Tendulkar committee came into picture, and Tendulkar committee decided this based on the income consumption of households. Then, because of a lot of protests and all, Rangarajan committee was appointed. Rangarajan committee decided to split the amount between rural and urban, but the situation more or less remains same. Today, current poverty level basket is a mix of various things, and the line that we follow is Tendulkar poverty line. And then the same poverty is also measured to identify the beneficiaries of various schemes. Such measurement is known as socio-economic caste census. Socio-economic caste census is undertaken by various ministries. In rural, it is done by Rural Development Ministry. In urban, it is done by Urban and Housing Affairs Ministry, whereas the caste data is measured by Home Affairs. So this is about measurement of poverty within India and outside India, that is in the world. World Bank is one organization that measures poverty constantly. And World Bank measures poverty based on the gross national income per capita in purchasing power parity. Don't worry about what is purchasing power parity. We will discuss what it is in the next class. In the next classes, not in exactly in the next class, but in the next classes. The next class is about inequality. Now, World Bank classifies countries based on their gross national income per capita, that is the overall income of the country's nationals upon the population of the country, that is called as gross national income per capita. And based on this, countries are divided into four different categories. One is high income country, second is middle income country, third is low middle country, and fourth is below poverty line or extremely low. These values are determined based on each different country. GNI per capita of any country which is more than $12,000 is considered as high income group country. 6,000 to $12,000 is considered as middle income group country. 1,500 to $6,000 is low income or low middle group country. And below poverty line country is a country whose GNI per capita is less than $1,500. Now, based on this category, a number has been fixed which is used to determine the poverty line. The highest value is fixed for high income group countries at $11 and lowest is fixed for lowest income group countries at $2.15. So this is how World Bank determines the poverty. Now everybody knows that poverty is there, poverty exists, but what are the mechanisms to come out of poverty? To come out of poverty, World Bank and United Nations General Assembly came up with a proposal which is known as Millennium Development Goals. These Millennium Development Goals are the goals of the entire world to come out of poverty, and these goals were achieved by 2015. So by 2015, overall United Nations General Assembly goal or World Bank goal was that eradicate extreme poverty and extreme hunger, achieve universal primary education, promote gender equality and empowerment of women, reduce child mortality, ensure environmental sustainability, combat HIV/AIDS, malaria and other diseases, improvement of maternal health and global partnership for development. So the first set of goals which world followed are known as Millennium Development Goals. These were developed by World Bank and set by United Nations General Assembly. They might ask you in the examinations, they might give you four options. They might ask you which of the following are Millennium Development Goals. Apart from that, in any descriptive paper, you can utilize these Millennium Development Goals and you can write essays. I will demonstrate the same when I am talking about SDGs in the next 5 minutes. So this is about Millennium Development Goals. And after Millennium Development Goals were expired, we came up with the next set of goals called as Sustainable Development Goals. The premise of these goals is such that as countries progress, it is not just the numbers and the GDP or the economic progress that is important. Welfare is also important. So Millennium Development Goals focus at the basic welfare of people and those elements that determine the number of people who are below poverty line. The next level of goals are Sustainable Development Goals. Sustainable Development Goals, the period is from 2015 to 2030. There are 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and these goals were formed at United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development, which was held at Brazil. The same summit is also known as Rio Plus 20 Summit. So in Rio Plus 20 Summit, all the world leaders came together. They sat and decided that our development has to be sustainable in nature. We should ensure that we live and we let our future generations live, and we are mere custodians of these resources, and we are not the owners of the natural resources. We are mere custodians, and the concept of trusteeship matters with respect to development. So we are trustees and we have to protect these resources. So the development has to change its pattern and we need to have sustainable development. So the goals that were set in Brazil's declaration, which is also known as Rio Plus 20 Summit, are known as Sustainable Development Goals. These goals were agreed in 2015 at UN Sustainable Summit in New York. And these goals are in action since 2015 and their expiry period is 2030. Time and again you will see in newspapers where government says that we have achieved our sustainable development goals till this particular extent. Such goals are 17 in number. These goals are important with respect to objective examinations. They might ask you which of the following are sustainable development goals and which of the following are not. For example, no poverty, no hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, partnership for various goals, justice, promotion of institutions, life underwater. So these are various sustainable development goals. The same goals can also be used to determine whether the progress of a country is in a right manner or not. Are we able to protect our nature? Are we ensuring that everybody is coming along with us in this development journey, or is this a pure jobless growth, or is this a pure growth where GDP is growing but it is not trickling down into the development of people? So that is the primary goal of sustainable development goals. In practical usage, in descriptive examinations, you can use these sustainable development goals to write various essays. For example, you want to talk about a topic, you can give introduction of the topic and then say, let us analyze these goals, or let us analyze this topic with respect to sustainable development goals. And then you can go on and explaining the same topic, and you have 17 different topics or 17 different subheadings to talk about the topic. So sustainable development goals can be used in multiple ways, and this is the way in which the world is progressing towards eradicating poverty. Now, along with these, there are certain private indices which measure the poverty. One such index is multidimensional poverty index. Multidimensional poverty index is measured or is released by Oxford Human Developmental Initiative and the United Nations Development Program. So, in your question, if there is a multi-statement question which says which of the following sentences are correct about multidimensional poverty index, it is a United Nations index, or it is released by United Nations, the sentence is wrong. This development report is prepared by Oxford Human Developmental Initiative. Multidimensional poverty index contains three aspects. One is health, the other is standard of living, and the third is education. In India, there is one more index which is known as multidimensional poverty index. India's MPI is calculated by NITI Aayog. NITI Aayog takes data from National Family and Health Service. It considers maternal health, and it also takes the data of bank accounts. It considers various things. In health part, it considers nutrition, child mortality, adolescent mortality, and antenatal care. Antenatal care refers to the post birth care. So these are considered in health. And in education, you have years of schooling and school of attendance which are considered. In standard of living, you have cooking fuel, sanitation, drinking water, accessibility, electricity, housing, assets, and bank account. So all these are considered, and India's multi-dimensional poverty line is decided. This is a first index. The second index, which is released by United Nations, is that United Nations Development Program releases a report known as Human Development Report. In this report, there are four different indices which are mentioned. One is Human Development Index, the other is Multidimensional Poverty Index, third is Gender Inequality Index, and fourth is Gender Developmental Index. Of all these indices, Human Development Index, or HDI, is very important. HDI is suggested by Professor Amit Sen of India and Mehboob Haq of Pakistan. There are three dimensions which are measured in Human Development Index. First dimension is health, education, and standard of living. These three are measured and all the countries are ranked. Usually, they will ask you in examinations which of the following is India's rank in HDI, etc. So, India's rank has slightly improved. In 2022, our rank was at 133, and today our rank is at 130 out of 193. And as I told you, all these indices must be taken with a pinch of salt, because there is a lot of slow brainwashing kind of activities that go on when these indices are prepared. So, based on these indices, India is placed in a middle income group country. Next index that we have to discuss is Gender Development Index. Gender Development Index helps to understand the gender inequalities in any country. Gender Development Index gives you the ratio of female human development index versus male human development index, and the value of GDI in India is somewhere at 0.852, because of which India is placed in bottom group. This is about Gender Development Index, and there is one more index which is Gender Inequality Index. Gender Inequality Index helps you to understand the inequality between men and women, and India's rank is somewhere at around 108 of 166. The country that occupies the highest position is Iceland. As we start discussing about these indices, such as, for example, we discussed about multidimensional poverty index, then we spoke of India's MPI, then we spoke of Human Development Report. In Human Development Report, we spoke about Human Development Index, Gender Development Index, and Gender Inequality Index. When you see all these indices, it is one common observation that Nordic countries always top these indices. There are different reasons for this. Nordic countries includes Norway, Finland, Denmark, Sweden, etc., which are around the Baltic Sea region. These countries are considered as exceptions because they always top these indices, and this exception, this way in which these countries are topping these indices, this is known as Nordic exceptionalism. And Nordic exceptionalism is because of various reasons. For example, if you consider Norway, Norway is a very huge oil economy. Finland is known for its electronics. Nokia is from Finland. Denmark has always been a rich country since ages, and it is a benefactor of colonialism. And Sweden has developed after World War II. So these are the set of countries which have robust social security, robust welfare policies, and the population of the country is very small. The land is large, so government of those countries is able to cater their needs, and these countries are always on the top in these indices, and such phenomena is called as Nordic exceptionalism. This word has been used n number of times by economic survey. Now one more report that we are discussing here, the last report for today, is World Happiness Report. World Happiness Report is prepared by Oxford Wellbeing Research Center and United Nations Sustainable Development and Solution Network. This is important, kindly remember this. So World Happiness Report is released by Oxford Wellbeing and Research Center. There are 6 indices or 6 indicators that decide whether world is happy or not, whether a country is happy or not. The first one is GDP per capita, obviously. The second is social support, healthy life expectancy, freedom to make choices, generosity in the country, and perception of corruption. If you see properly, the report is so skewed that all the indices that are written in this, all the indicators that are written in this, all these indicators are based on perception and understanding. So, as I told you, these reports and indices are to be taken with a pinch of salt. Having said this, the country that tops this index is Finland, and India's rank is 118. So, this is all about the discussion with respect to poverty. I'm ending this class here. In the next class, we will discuss about inequality.